The world of modern sports cards is based almost entirely on parallels: gold, black, mini diamond, orange, zebra stripe, and it is for the most part these parallels that hold the most value, especially those with low numbers. We tend to think of parallels as a fairly modern invention, and to a certain degree, it's true. The explosion of parallels in the hobby is fairly recent. But the first true parallels date back more than 30 years to 1991, and one of those came from Wildcard, the stripe. Looking back on it today, Wildcard had the same problem as many other junk wax era sets. Production runs were higher than the sets before, competition in the market was fierce, and the design, frankly, does not stand the test of time. But for a brief shining moment, Wildcard was riding the crest of innovation in a sports card marketplace transformed almost daily by a Wild West mentality and new entrants. Let's take a look at 1991 Wildcard and its lasting mark on the hobby. One of the first things to keep in mind about 1991 Wildcard is that, yes, print runs were high by today's standards, but considering the era, the company was downright stingy with its use of cardboard and ink. The most commonly cited figure is that there were 30,000 10-box cases produced. That comes out to 300,000 boxes, each containing 36 packs. Each pack contained 15 cards, so we get 162 million cards produced, or about 1 million per card in what was a 160-card set. While figures for today's NFL sets are a closely guarded secret, go to hell Panini, it is a safe bet that print runs for score and prestige today are both pretty close to that number. And compared to sets like 1989 Pro Set Football, well, it's downright reasonable. Wildcard promised to put the trade back in trading card, but their design definitely put the wild in it as well. The border, featuring all of the variable stripe values, is, well, it's something else, that's for sure. It's black, and that makes it hard to grade well, and it's pretty distracting. The player image gets lost just a little bit in all of the circus jumble of the border. There's also this football-shaped icon in the lower left-hand corner indicating that this is from the Premier NFL edition. Wildcard also released a draft pick edition. In those draft pick sets, you could find true rookies like Brett Favre, or you could find simply guys reprinted in their college uniforms like Barry Sanders. We see that today with contenders. But the real magic of Wildcard was that it produced parallels. Along with Action Packed and Pacific Picks the Pros, both also released in 1991, Wildcard was at the forefront of creating rare, collectible, and desirable alternate versions of base cards. In Wildcard's case, that was the stripe. Inserted generally at a ratio of 1 out of every 100, or about 5 per box, stripe cards came in flavors of 5, 10, 20, 50, 100, and 1000. You could send in your stripe cards for base cards at the quantity indicated, or you could assemble your stripe cards to upgrade. So, a 1000 stripe Lawrence Taylor card would be worth 1000 cards, or you could gather 110 stripe Taylors to get 1000 stripe. Anecdotally, it looks as if rarity per case doubled as you increased in stripe value. So there would be 2 100s in a case, 4 50s, but only 1 1000. That also means that there were 30,000 1000 stripe cards, or about 190 per player. Now, if I had to guess, I'd say it's more likely that there were probably closer to 250 or 300 of each, but that would be to allow Wildcard to stock them so that they could trade them back to collectors who redeemed. But I honestly don't have any evidence for that. Stripes would change card collecting. In addition to the ability to trade up or down with the manufacturer, it was also possible to complete a rainbow of sorts of a player by assembling all 7 versions of a player's card, 6 stripes plus the base. Today, it's the stripes that maintain value in this set. The relatively low print run notwithstanding, stripes are a fairly well-known quantity, and their rarity and the fact that there were a bunch of Hall of Famers in this set makes them a valuable collector's item. As an aside, Joe Montana did not appear in this set. Would his 1000 stripe card be the most valuable? It's likely that it would, and this was a true missed opportunity for collectors of one of the 3 greatest quarterbacks ever to play the game. One quick note. We're going to end up using Card Ladder to identify prices because it has historical price data. There simply aren't enough sales of these cards at the high end for eBay to store the records, and 130 Point gives us hit or miss results. Also, these cards do grade poorly, so we're not going to restrict ourselves to just PSA 9s and 10s, just the most valuable of every card. We will include Wildcard Collegiate because 2 all-time greats pop in that set. So, let's dig into it. Which of these cards are the most valuable? Number 1 is Brett Favre. His Collegiate Draft Picks 1,000 stripe card goes for almost $20,000. Shockingly, a junk wax era card worth $20,000 does exist, and this is it. Again, sales of this card are rare. This is only one of them sold in the last 15 months, and that rarity adds to the value and the mystique of this card. Number 2 is Jerry Rice. His 1,000 stripe card goes for $1,500. Jerry is the greatest wide receiver to ever live. He grew up catching bricks from his father and worked harder than any other player on the field day in and day out. That turned him into someone who would outrun, outsweat, and outthink everybody else. And that gives us PSA 9 sales of $1,000 to $1,500 every day. Number 3 is Barry Sanders. His 1,000 stripe card goes for about $1,100. There are precisely 0 PSA 10s of this card. It's far more likely that you'll find a 6 or a 7. In a 9, it's super rare and the price reflects that. In an 8, it's probably $700. At the same price, you can find the Barry Sanders Collegiate Draft 1,000 stripe card. This is not a true rookie because it was released 2 years after he was drafted, but still, he's in his Oklahoma State uniform, and people love that stuff. Number 4 is Bo Jackson. His 1,000 stripe card goes for $800. Bo is one of only 2 non-Hall of Famers on this list, but he still commands a high price just because he was so electric when he played. The man ruined Tecmo Bowl for 27 other teams, and his 1,000 stripe cards, of which only 10 have ever been graded by PSA in any condition, go for a price that reflects both the hype and the rarity. Number 5 is Troy Aikman's 1,000 stripe card for about $700. Again, only a handful, like literally 9, of his 1,000 stripe cards have ever been graded by PSA. If you're able to get one of the only 2 9s to ever exist, it's $700. Otherwise, you're looking at maybe $150. Number 6 is the Doug Allen promo card. I'm using air quotes here. A card that was released only inside the Wildcard Company. This is a rare case of a private card making it onto the public market. Think to the George Bush baseball cards, for example. Wildcard was embroiled in a conflict with the NFLPA in 1991, and Doug Allen, who only played 2 years for the Bills, but was the assistant executive director at the time that Wildcard was released, was the target of their ire. On the back of the card, they outright call the guy a Nazi, and they quote him as being glad to be part of the fashion industry, a clear dig at Allen's sexuality. For the record, as far as I know, Doug Allen was straight. These cards are exceptionally rare, and even in ungraded condition will cost you about $600. Number 7 is Emmitt Smith's 1,000 stripe card for $550. Emmitt was a first ballot Hall of Famer, 3-time Super Bowl champion, all-time rushing leader in the NFL. He appears here in a photo from his rookie season. Again, poor grading keeps these values down over what they could be, but it's still a valuable card. Numbers 8, 9, and 10 are Steve Young, Deion Sanders, and Lawrence Taylor, all of them going for between $400 and $500. Again, this is a testament to how hard it is to grade these cards high. The low volume of high-graded cards makes these prices hard to predict, but I feel pretty confident in these numbers. Now, just for fun, let's remember that there are non-striped cards out there. Interestingly enough, it's not Favre that goes for the highest prices. It's Emmitt Smith at $150 and Barry Sanders draft picks and Bo Jackson, both for about $100 or $125 in a high grade. Favre comes in a little bit later at about $80, and anybody else is a total crapshoot. Wildcard shut down after the 1993 season when they lost their NFLPA and NFL licenses. Their intellectual property was repurchased, and they have since relaunched, and they produce unlicensed cards today, many of which you can find on the discount sticker rack at Walmart. Admittedly, it's not quite the same, even if the branding still is. But for that brief moment, they really were at the forefront of hobby ingenuity, and Wildcard helped to truly transform card collecting from what it was into the industry that it is today. Thanks for watching. Don't forget, like, subscribe, comment down below. Do you have any 1,000 stripe cards? Hundreds? 50s? 20s? 5s? Let me know. Leave a comment, and we'll see you next time.